How would you build body weight strength from scratch? It can probably feel like a maze, a lot of different pieces to the puzzle, probably a lot of pain or chronic injuries or skills that you want to build and to get back to. And you probably are wanting to level up and not just stay at kind of a beginner or mediocre baseline, but there's strength that has to be built, there's flexibility, there is the new trend, mobility, which is really just movement. There's adding speed to the mix and power so that you can have agility and do all of the sports that you want to do all the activities that you want to do. So it could probably feel like a maze. Sometimes when people see the training, it kind of looks overwhelming or it could look a little intimidating, I've heard. And people think, I don't have that kind of equipment, or I don't know the sets and reps or the right protocols to be able to really build the strength and the movement and know what to do, especially in a sea of over-information that we have nowadays. Which is why a lot of people hire me and my team to train them, to help them overcome those roadblocks and get through the maze easily and quickly. CEOs, pilots, attorneys, engineers, professional athletes, former, and I don't know if we're supposed to say this word for marketing reasons, but people that have been to Mount Olympia, if you understand what I'm saying, or have competed in those games. But yeah, it can feel like a maze. It can feel like there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle you're trying to get through to become a stronger version of yourself. And you're dealing with those things, and those things they could feel very serious and even overwhelming. And then when you're dealing with a whole bunch of information overload on top of all of that, it's like, which direction do you turn in this maze? And so I want to break it down and share with you how I would do it if I was starting right now from scratch, building body weight strength all the way up to powerful movement. And we're going to look at a couple of different moves together. And the first one that I want to start with is probably the easiest one to kind of begin with. It's easy to wrap your head around because it's basically just good pushing strength. And so we'll start like this here. Why doing a press handstand? Well, that's involving a number of different pieces, and it's requiring strength through the entire body. And so here's a big piece that I want you to think about. A lot of times people are fighting against themselves whenever they're trying to unlock new levels of strength, quite literally. So imagine, for example, that you have tight hamstrings and a weak core. Now you are working triple, quadruple the amount that someone that can do a press handstand that has that flexibility and core strength. You're working 4 times as hard. You're literally fighting against yourself. Imagine doing a kick like this, just kicking vertically, okay, using the dynamic flexibility of the hamstring and then the core and lower core strength of the leg to kick. A person that has that mobility and flexibility built, they're working 4 times easier. They're working 4 times easier to come into this position and then engage everything else to go into that press handstand. It makes me think of a lot of clients that whenever they start off, we've got to get their flexibility to match their strength. And so that's what you have to do. You have to work on your flexibility in such a way that it matches your strength. If you don't have flexibility that matches your strength, then that is creating what's called an imbalance. There's an imbalance. You have muscles that are overworking to compensate for the lack of strength in the ranges of motion that are not opened up yet. And then you have the dynamic load of the flexibility that then can turn into an injury, and that would be like catastrophic. So there's two ways of building this, and that's, again, the hamstring flexibility, the hip mobility to be able to get into this position, and then the core strength to even pull yourself into that shape. And here's a shape. This is like an example of a shape, okay? A pike hold like this is a shape that you want to be able to do, and that you'll be able to do as a test for yourself right now to see how strong your core is. Do the legs need to bend at all to lift up, or can you hold them straight like this? Can you stabilize with balance and control and bring those legs up? So that would be the first piece, is building the flexibility to match the strength. Whenever you do that, then you're building both in a way that's actually holistic and comprehensive for the whole body. And then you have control in all of these different positions. And so if the press handstand was your pushing strength, then this was going to be your pulling strength. Now what happens a lot of times is that people get stuck on pull-ups, or they get stuck on press handstands, or they get stuck on these things, and then they end up going back to their old ways of reverting back to maybe workout plans and stuff that they've done, which kind of exasperates the whole situation because they're just wrenching on connective tissue that isn't built up. And so you guys all know this. You've probably said this to people. Oh, you can, get away with that when you're young. And folks that are in their 20s or 30s and they're training and stuff, they're doing a lot of things that are going to be creating that snowball effect. And then you end up, people don't feel things because they hit a certain number, and then all of a sudden that's just a magic spell or something. But it ends up happening because they don't know what they don't know at those particular stages, and they don't change anything, and then they're training ineffectively, creating issues. So the next thing that I would start to build is dynamics. So if the press handstand was involving flexibility, strength, control, opening up ranges of motion, the move like this, a muscle up, getting the pulling strength. I get this one, just like the press handstand, is full body. So we need to be able to do a pull up, not like this, with the legs flowing everywhere. We need to be able to hold our body and pull the chest up to the bar. This requires your core to kick in. It requires that because the legs are going to want to boost with you. Now, there's time and a place for using your legs and generating momentum in any move, not just the muscle up, but anything else. So when we get into dynamics, we can start adding speed and motion and power, and that's where the fun comes in for training. So a lot of you guys, you probably feel like worn out and stuff with your training because it ain't fun anymore, and you're doing the same things over and over like it's a chore, and when we can do when we can start adding speed to things, then it opens up a whole new world. But that's also the same area that people get hurt in because they're trying to switch from the slow sets and reps into something that's fast paced. It's the whole reason why people will go and get hurt on the weekends. The weekend warriors, they're all beat up and banged up because they might be training during the week, doing the slow sets and reps in the gym and taking their vitamins and supplements like they should. And then they go and they try to transfer that over to playing a recreational game or to an obstacle race or to any number of things. And then there goes the rotator cuff or their back or their knees. And then they revert back to that same kind of training, which is kind of compounding the whole situation. So dynamics, we want to open up that connective tissue and start allowing the strength to build in those areas that would otherwise be weak areas. So the things don't blow up. And so that is an example of adding dynamics to your training, adding the speed and the momentum, but it has to be done on a good foundation. And that foundation comes from the multidisciplinary idea of movement, where we have static training happening, we've got flexibility and strength, and we add the speed on there, and it starts to become really fun. But building that core strength to a high level where you can hold those static positions and your core is 3, 4, 5, even 10 times stronger than you need it to be for daily life. Because here's some interesting pieces of information, this will lock it in for you, is when you add speed, okay? Let's say just a body weight squat. A body weight squat, okay? That would be whatever your body weight is, minus, part of your lower body. So not quite full body weight. Let's say that we just go like this and we just jump and land back in the squat. So how much force is that? You engineers, multiple times body weight. So let's say that's like 2 times body weight of force landing. So you don't need a barbell on your back to generate that kind of force. Now, it's not the same as an actual rep of lifting that double body weight squat. It's not the same thing, and it happens in a fraction of a second versus the slow time under tension. But life is more filled with the explosive movements and the need for speed. I sound like Mickey from Rocky. You need speed. What we need is speed. So life is filled more with that stuff than it is with slow, concentric and eccentric contractions. It's filled with bursts and quick and accidents and activities that require all these changes of direction. And so I'm going to come back to talking about why the core is so important. But let's say we just go up to here now, and now we jump up and land. That's a lot of force. And the core is the main ingredient in athletic longevity for physical movement, powerful movement. That's why in our master warm-up, we'll go through 6 moves done just for the core. At the very beginning, we start by firing up the core, and then we move on from there to the back, to the upper body, pushing to the legs, to the wrist and feet. And the core is what's going to be critical for your lower back, for your spine. And so what about taking it up even higher like this and coming all the way down? Quick, forceful, controlled slow sets and reps simply doesn't prepare you for that. But then people think that it does. You think that the normal mainstream methods for training or for working out, because that's different than training, but working out is going to help you for life and for feeling good and for having athletic longevity, when it's counterintuitive, because it's kind of the opposite. You need to be doing the slow stuff that builds that base level foundation type stuff, but that only gets you like 10 to 20% of the way there. Then we have to add the dynamics, the movements, because that's going to continue building that buffer of strength. And then you have so much strength built, like I showed you on the V stand. So your core is 10 times stronger than just a person that doesn't have that strength. And so whenever you encounter the skills, the speed, the things in life, it doesn't wrench on all of your connective tissue that's trying to hold your body together. There's this, like I always say, a buffer of more than is required for daily life. That way, whenever you, like, you know, the Richter scale in your body goes off, I'm sure that you've been there, then all of a sudden, boom, it doesn't redline and cause a problem. That's all built in. So we have press handstand, and examples related to that, because these are not just the end all be all. It's not just a press handstand, V stand, or muscle up. Although those are the 3 moves that we want to see built during foundation training and that you should be working towards before you touch any weights. Being able to easily do a press handstand, being able to easily do a muscle up, being able to easily do a V stand. Even if it does feel like a maze, you can start to crystallize and clarify your path forward. And build a much higher level of strength that fortifies you. So don't make the mistake of wrenching on all that connective tissue and adding speed on joints and stuff that are not prepared for it. But you want to build through that, and definitely focusing on specific goals, such as these 3: pushing, pulling, and core strength. And then these all involve the legs, and the more flexibility in the legs, then the more you're able to add strength to the legs as well. And so I would add as a bonus would be a single leg squat with a jump. And this is going to help build a foundation for literally anything else that you want to do. So we have static, we have building the flexibility and the strength that match within that context, so that you're not fighting against yourself in terms of your strength. Adding motion to that, the dynamics of the kick, like I demonstrated, that idea of speed and ballistics. And then putting that into different contexts, pushing, pulling, core, and then your legs. And then you're able to start adding onto that into cooler moves. And that's where I would immediately go to next. If I was starting from scratch, I would build those pieces out and then continue on from there, adding the speed and the motion. And that's how you get through the maze of building body weight strength, and then you're transformed for life. I'll see you in the next video and in training soon.